So you want to build a house. Welcome to the podcast by Statera Homes. I'm Scott Daly, and I'm here with my co-host, Jackie Kovaleski.
Hello.
How are you today, Jackie?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. Listen, we have an exciting episode for you today. We're going to talk a little about house design.
Yes.
We're going to talk about it in the context of lessons from the lockdown.
Yes.
Right? So you have just gone through, or not just, but one of the probably the most memorable things of your life going forward is going to be the lockdown as a result of the COVID-19 virus.
Yeah. Very, very strange. Learning a lot of different lessons. My habits have changed. Everyone's habits have changed.
Right. And so there's these defining things that happen to every generation, right? So when I was a kid, people would say, do you know where you were when JFK died? Well, JFK died long before I was born, but not before my parents and my grandparents and these older generations that were around when I was a kid. And everybody knew the answer to that question. When I found out JFK was shot, I was in school. I was at, and they can describe in detail. So for my generation, maybe it's September 11th. And I know exactly where I was when I heard about September 11th. And I know I remember those days. They were vivid. If you're in Jackie's generation, you probably don't remember September 11th
No,
as well.
I do actually.
You do?
Well, but I'm definitely on the younger end, but I still remember it.
Right. And if you're Generation Z or something like that,
you don't.
You don't remember it.
No.
And that's all okay. So if you're an adult or you're an older child or anything like that, the lockdown and the pandemic that swept the world in 2020 is going to be one of those things that you're always going to remember.
Sure.
Because hopefully it was a very unique, very tragic event that never happened again.
Yeah.
So
fingers crossed.
But so here's why that matters. We're not really here talking about that. Everybody lived it. You got your story. I got mine.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd love to hear them some other time, but you probably don't want to listen to a podcast about that.
No.
But what it did do is it did make you spend a lot of time in your house, right?
Yes.
Oh, my gosh. And for some people, that was either really good or it was really long, right?
A lot of time in and around the house
Right.
with the people that you live with.
Which that can be, part of the problem. And so what we're trying to sort of talk through is how we think that impacts the design of a new house.
Because it does.
It should have a huge impact. There are some lessons that maybe if you're thinking about building a new house, you've been through the lockdown, and maybe there's some lessons from the lockdown that can help you design a better home for the future.
Right. And so what's so crazy is that a lot of people start with square footage when really, if this didn't teach us one lesson, or if it taught us a bunch of lessons, one of them would be it's more about utility of the house.
Right. So people probably found out that their house is lockdown friendly, and some people pretty much found out like, sweet Jesus, I just want to not kill anyone.
Yeah, I'm going to go for a car ride.
Right. Even though I'm not supposed to. I'm not supposed to kill anyone either. So
just
which
one
law?
Car ride, just one.
Which law am I going to break? I'm going to one. I might get a ticket for driving my car. The other one, I go to jail forever.
Yeah.
Right. So, and we're kidding. Don't hurt anyone.
Those are jokes.
But So one of the things we get all the time is, I'm looking for a 2,000 square foot house, or a 2,200, or a 16, whatever. Everyone puts a number on it.
Where did that number come from?
I have no idea.
But there has to be a sensible reason people say, I want this many square feet.
Right. And I think a lot of it is they're looking at floor plans and they're looking at price and they're thinking, okay,
around here,
this is what I want. I want a 4-door car.
Mm-hmm.
I want a V6 engine.
Or maybe their former house or their current house has that same.
But a lot of people have no idea how many square foot their house is. You ask my wife how big our house is, I guarantee she tells you the wrong answer. It's 11,000 square feet.
Why does she doesn't sound like that? Why did you make her sound like that?
No, but that's her answer because our house is big. And it's big because we had kids. And the kids are gone and the house stayed. And it was perfectly sized for when we had kids. And it's big now. It's just big. It allows us to collect junk that we don't need or shouldn't keep. Anyway, so that I think is that square footage number, I agree with you, is so misunderstood. And so let's start to talk through like some ideas of the size versus, like you said, the utility. A well-designed, very small house probably could have been lockdown friendly.
Sure.
Right. So I guess you would say this. Like, so here's a question to ask yourself. How many of your spaces were you really using? So it could go back to the lockdown.
Okay.
And you're in your house, and whoever's locked down with you is locked down with you. There you go. Those are your people.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you're thinking about designing a new house for your life, think about the spaces you used and the spaces you didn't.
Right.
And I have this theory, and my theory says this. My theory says that people had a lot of space in their house that they never went in, even when they were spending a phenomenal amount of time in their house.
Absolutely.
Right. So doesn't that make you ask a question? If I don't ever need this room when I'm stuck in my house and I can't leave, then why do I have that room?
I think someone could make the argument that, when things are freed up, they want that room to allow people to stay over.
Okay.
But they don't need 3 rooms for
Right.
people to stay over.
Right. And so that's a fair question. And so
Right.
if you're thinking about building a new house, have that conversation about, hey, what did we really use and what did we not use? And then, like you said, so what are some of the exceptions, because that was an exceptional time.
Mm-hmm.
But generally speaking, when it's just your nuclear group, whether you're an empty nester, whether you're a family, it's your people at the house.
Sure.
You're using some spaces and you're not using other spaces. And then the question is, on your new house, if you don't use those spaces, what do you need them for? I mean, we run into people all the time who are retiring down in Delaware, and they literally want to spend, I don't know, $100,000 building this gigantic guest suite, whether it's putting a second floor on a ranch home, whether it's finishing a basement. And you kind of want to look at these people and say, hey, you know what? Like, your kids are not going to come down here as much as you want them to with your grandkids. They're just not.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to spend a phenomenal amount of money to try to create that experience. Man, take them on vacation, because they will go. If you pay, they'll go.
Sure.
And you want to create experiences. Ultimately, that space is created so they will come to your house, stay with you, and create a memory and have time together and live little bit of life together.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's probably more economically efficient ways to create those seasons in life than there are building this gigantic house that they're not
right.
gonna
I mean,
use.
how many times is that really going to happen?
Right.
Hopefully a good amount.
Right.
But is it worth spending all that money cleaning it all the time? I mean,
keeping it hot, keeping it cold, all those things. So, so that's really a question. If you're going, is what kind of space, what kind of spaces were you using, where you're not using, and that really drives the conversation of how much space do you truly need, and not just that, but where do you need it? And Jackie, you had some really interesting thoughts about rooms in a house.
Yeah. Well, so my idea, talking about the in-law suite, or that gigantic add-on that people build, I was just thinking, I mean, I know your mind went there. My mind went to, I'm thinking about building a house. I don't really want a big foyer. I'd rather have less foyer space and more laundry room space. Or I'd rather have more closet than bedroom. Or I'd rather have my additional bedrooms be smaller, because, who really is staying in there?
Right.
And even if you make the argument, I would say, okay, you have someone stay for a weekend, they don't really need to have a big bedroom. But then you could make the argument, well, what if I have kids and I want to grow into the house? Well, they can live in a 10 by 10 bedroom, because I lived in like an 8 by 9 dorm room for, too much time. So it's possible, and I'm not saying they need to be just, stuffed in there, but a 10 by 10 bedroom is a good size, and you can have a nice closet in there, and then ultimately they come out into different parts of the house.
Right.
And so then it's, do you have a playroom? Well, the kid probably spends most of the time in that room, and then he sleeps in, he or she sleeps in the bedroom. So when I'm thinking about building a house, I think about what I do daily that sort of fits my needs, not the traditional, a house is supposed to have X, Y, Z.
So what you're saying is you'd actually like to have a house that fits your life.
Yes. Yeah.
Have you ever heard that before
No,
on this podcast? Where did you come up with that
of all
idea?
the marketing I do for this company.
Right?
No, I think I might align with
Way
that
to be
a
on
little
message,
bit.
Jackie.
I do. I am on message, and I really believe it.
Right. And we have always said, if you go back into our marketing or you go back in this podcast is, a house is the setting for the story of your life. And boy, the lockdown taught us that, man, it could be a lot more of the setting than maybe we'd like it to be.
Right. Hopefully not. But
Right. But so I think what you're
going to
saying
be.
is think about how you live and don't just take necessarily the traditional house that everybody needs, 3 bedrooms, 2 bath, open floor plan, blah, 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 which
Right.
grow on trees. Literally every builder has
right.
3 of those.
I think builders and realtors are guilty, and they might be right, you can tell me, of pushing that agenda. You
Right.
have to have this, you have to have this, because what if resale? What if you want to grow into it? What if this? But you should definitely take a minute and say, am I compromising the way I am going to live for that emotional feeling of safety in purchasing
Right.
the house?
Right. And there is kind of a balance, but I think what you're
There
saying
always
is
is.
we're sort of out of balance. That if all you're doing is thinking about how this house resells,
Right.
what about your life while you're in it?
You haven't even lived in it yet.
Right. Don't build a house for the next people that are going to own it.
Right. And I'm not saying, we have 2 extra bedrooms. Jackie and Scott say we don't need it. Well, you might want to have a little home gym or an
Right.
office, but that, again, it just goes back to, am I going to work from home a little bit more from now on?
Right.
Okay, well, then I need this office space. Am I going to be teaching my kids at the breakfast table, or do I need a dining room? Do we need the open floor plan? Do we need more privacy, and we need the sound to be kept down a little bit?
Right. Which brings us kind of to the sort of the second phase of what we're talking about is how do you use the space? And,
Right.
you kind of really touched on that is one of the things that spending a lot of time in your house is giving you the opportunity to do is really analyze how you use the space of the house. Because a lot of times when you're just running and running and running, you don't really get to think through the space of your house. But, we were locked down, at least in Delaware, at a time when the weather wasn't that nice outside. You weren't.
Right. Yeah, no,
And
it wasn't.
a lot of the outdoor spaces that you would go at the beaches and here in Delaware were closed.
Mhm.
So you're in your house. You don't even want to
Mhm.
be in your yard because it's freaking cold and raining.
Right.
So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, that brings us to the outdoor space as well.
Right.
When you think about building a house, you think about hopefully the utility and the purpose of your house and within it. But then you also think, do I want a porch, a patio, paver, sunroom? Do I want something that I can sit outside?
Right.
And do I want my house to be L-shaped so I'm nooked in there, have a little bit of privacy? Those are some things that you should think about.
Right. And I think most people don't think through all those spaces. They say they see the optional sunroom on a builder's sheet that they downloaded from the internet and they think, oh, we need the sunroom.
Right.
But the sunroom, which, in a lot of floor plans is tacked onto the dining area, which is tacked onto the kitchen. So it's really an extension of the kitchen and the dining area.
Right.
What do you do with that space?
Well, that's what I'm saying. So in my opinion, I think a lot of people go a little too far. They might not, but with a big island, a breakfast area, a dining room, and a 3 seasons room or a porch.
Right.
How many places are you going to be eating at one time? Maybe you pick 3 of those.
Right.
But-
And maybe you just sit and eat in front of the TV like everybody
Right.
else.
I mean, maybe you do that
Right.
when no one's like,
Yeah, you don't need any of that
Right.
stuff.
Maybe you're just you keep that stuff because you act like you use it. But
Right.
but so what? You have your island and then you walk through your breakfast area to get to your dining space, to get to your patio. I mean, I'm sure it's set up a lot
Right.
better than that, but do you need it?
Right. And so ultimately that's it. So you end up paying for more house
Yeah.
that you can't use. It's not that you don't need that space. It's just that space isn't well allocated to your life.
Right. You don't use it. If
You
you
don't
have a
use it.
dining room table that has a bunch of crap on it, or you don't need that table.
Right. You need a closet
Yeah.
or a home office.
Yeah, I'm sure that dining room bumps up to your bedroom, and then you think, I really want another closet.
Right.
I mean, I think that all the time.
That's the thing. So so I think that is an interesting just concept to really think through and talk through, like not just I want this room, but how am I going to use this room, right?
Right.
And, if I do get a big kitchen island, is that really going to work like a table? And now I don't need to worry about a table. Do I
Right.
not need a formal dining room?
Right.
And if I don't need a formal dining room and I like a plan that has a formal dining room, what can be done with that formal dining room? Which kind
Right.
of brings me to the next thing is like, I would say there's probably two crucial things that you want to think about after you sort of talk through this notion of what are your needs, how do you live. There's two things you want to think about with the builder, and so you've just really had this opportunity through the COVID-19 nightmare of figuring out how you live in a house, right? Because you spend all this time in this house, and I think it is it changes how we live. You're going to work from home more maybe if you're working. So a home office is a consideration. Some of these open floor plans aren't as lovely if you have a bunch of people doing different things. And so, but then it's like, okay, so I want to build a new house, but I have this great science experiment that lasted for a long time of me in a house. So now I know, what kind of space do I need and not need. And
right.
So, and I would think there's a couple of things to think about. One is versus, how about a nice space instead of a big space?
Yeah.
So if I'm going to spend a lot of time in my kitchen, I don't necessarily need this gigantic kitchen, but man, I might as well get a nice kitchen. So I think you're going to see a trend of people saying, I don't need all the square footage that I thought I needed, but I want what I'm going to surround myself in a nice spot.
Right. My thing I learned is what you said about the kitchen, I would want a nice kitchen and I would want a bigger kitchen because I planted myself in the kitchen. I had my coffee there. I was sitting at the counter. And then when people come over, we sit in the kitchen. And I know that's one of the things, again, I'm right on track with our marketing. But, bedroom-wise, it's all about closet space for me. I don't need a sitting area in my owner's suite.
Right. And that's kind of how we design our houses, that we focus on the kitchen space, but the bedrooms are not as impressive. They're just not, right? Because you have to make a compromise unless you have an unlimited budget.
Right. Sure.
And where do you spend your time? Well, you spend a lot of time in your bedroom. Don't get me wrong. Third of your life. But, your eyes are closed, and that room doesn't matter how big it is.
Right. And I'm not saying you don't have ample lighting. You have a nice space. I'm just saying you don't need to put a couch in there.
Right. Because you're not going to use that.
No.
It's going to look cool in the model, and you're going to be like,
100%
honey.
More cabinets. Open it up. That's one of the things I would definitely go with.
You're going to use.
Yeah.
Right? That's stuff that matters. So that's a big one. Another one would be, when you're looking at the builder, think about a couple of things. Think about a builder that can tweak plans to your life, right?
Make those changes.
Right? So if you're talking to a builder and you have to take the way they do it, and you've just gotten all this new data about the way you live, and it doesn't match, go somewhere else.
I just at least shop around. Don't compromise right away.
Right. Don't say, well, these are the dark cabinets.
Oh, well, maybe I can just buy another dresser and I'll put it in there because I don't have as much closet space that I want. And just don't do that.
Right.
See what you can get first before you're already compromising.
Right. So, and the other one would just be, look at some little things. There's some little things that we do at Statera that don't really show well. But if you spend a lot of time in a house, you come to appreciate just some little things.
What do you mean by that?
So, just take the fact that we put insulation around the master suite and we give you a solid door.
Right, yeah.
So it just blocks noise, right? Open floor plans, everybody loves open floor plans, but open floor plans also allow noise to go everywhere. Except you don't want it in the bedroom. So what you might have learned during the lockdown is you've got someone who's a morning person or someone who's a night owl. And that's okay. So let's design a house that lets somebody get up early without everybody having to get up early.
Sure.
Or vice versa. Somebody stay up late without everybody having to stay up late. We thought through some little things about that. Accessibility is another thing. If you were with somebody during the lockdown who had limited mobility, is the house equipped to handle that? Does the house give you some flexibility to occupy that house in different seasons of life?
Right.
We've thought through that.
And that's one I think I had touched on, don't buy the house for, I guess don't compromise when you haven't even lived in it yet. But I think that is something that you should absolutely think about. You think about what season of life you're in. Accessibility is something that is a smart decision to make those accommodations.
All the time, right? Yeah. So think about a house that has some flexibility in the finishes. Like you said, wow, I want a nice kitchen. Why do I want a nice kitchen? Well, I spend a lot of time in my kitchen.
And that's where I would entertain. I want that to look nice.
Right. And so are there some design flexibilities? Can I put some things in my kitchen that aren't just standard stuff? Do I have, that level of
Right. Can I go fun with the
flexibility.
backsplash, or do I just have to just not get it and do it later
And
myself? I
right.
know I don't want to
That
do that,
is a big deal.
Or maybe you do. I don't know.
Technology is another thing. Just little things like the USB charging outlets that
Yeah.
we put in our kitchens and our bedrooms so they can
Huge.
charge stuff. Smart thermostats, little things like that. And even some of this stuff that just, it all relates to the cost of ownership. Buying an energy efficient house with some quality materials that's going to last. If you spent a lot of time in a house, the things that weren't done high quality in that house, when you have to spend day after day after day in that house, that really starts to bug you.
Yeah.
You
And
really,
heat and cool it.
right. You really start to look at this stuff and go, why did I ever think that was okay? Well, it wasn't.
Right.
That's the bottom line. It wasn't okay.
Yeah.
So I think those are all things that, just ought to be considered. So, this is kind of our podcast on lessons from the lockdown.
Yeah.
And it's taking, what was a difficult experience, but also a very memorable experience, and trying to say, how can we use that experience to build a better future?
Right.
And I think that's what, that's all you can do with what we've all been through as a world. I mean, this is something that the world has experienced. It's very unique, but
Right.
you're going to, if you're thinking about buying a new house, even if you're thinking about buying a used house that's new to you, you just spent a lot of time in a house, and I think it's worth unpacking that, figuring out how you live, and then finding something that really fits.
Right. Like you said, your very own science experiment.
Right. And
Even though it was forced, hopefully it was helpful.
right. Well, this is trying to make it helpful. And like Jackie
Right.
said, don't settle.
Right.
Don't settle. Maybe it makes sense to buy a house that's a little bit smaller and a little bit nicer and a little bit more to your life than it is to just buy the biggest house because you think that's the best value. No, value means different things to different people.
Right.
And so if you're sitting there saying, well, the only value is in the size of the house and I need a really big house for a really small amount of money, it's like, is that going to make your life better? Maybe. I mean, look, everyone answers that question differently. But like you said, like, hey, a really nice kitchen and I'll give up a really big bedroom
Sure.
and I'm on a budget. And that's real.
Yeah.
So listen, we hope that's some helpful information. We hope you're able to take that experience and sort of turn around and use it for something good for the future.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're all about. And we really want you to come down to the beach
Yeah.
and check out our stuff and enjoy and get back to everything that we valued in life. So this is the So You Want to Build a House podcast. I'm Scott Daly.
And I'm Jackie Kowaleski.
And we can't wait for you to listen to our next episode. So You Want to Build a House is brought to you by Statera Homes. Statera Homes is a craft home builder in southern Delaware. This builder finds value in working with you to build a home that is the perfect fit for your lifestyle. Statera truly sets themselves apart from other builders in the area. To find out more, visit their website, www.staterahomes.com. That's STATERAHOMES.com. Or call their model home at area code 302-329-8881. That's 302-329-8881. Music from this podcast was by the band Defining Parallel from their recent single, Painted Lives. Thank you for listening to So You Want to Build a House. To stay updated on the most recent episodes, subscribe to this podcast on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you found it to begin with, or check out Statera Homes' website, which is again www.staterahomes.com. Thank you very much.